Chapter 4. The Unity of the Polis. 1. Greece, the Humanists' Homeland. The importance of Greek thought in Western history cannot be understood by a reading of the works of specialists in the field, because the prevailing approach is neither philosophical nor historical, but religious. A conspicuous example of this is the more learned than wise study of Venegega. Idea, the ideals of Greek culture. The majority of scholars turn to Greek culture not for its own sake, but to find a heritage and a homeland to buttress their anti-Christianity. Thus, Greek scholarship is more often autobiography than history, hence the inappropriate emphasis of many, and here we can accept Jaeger on Greek rationality, happiness, individualism, secularism, and democracy. In attempting to read their modern understanding of these terms into classical Greece, or to derive them from that culture, they are clearly guilty of wishful thinking. Greek culture was clearly and emphatically religious. Its center of orientation was not the individual and his fulfillment, but rather the city-state and its destiny, and in its emphasis on face, and its long history as a shame culture, classical Greece was closer to the Japan of the samurais than to modern Western civilization. The concept of the continuity of being was basic to Greek thought, and the line of demarcation between the gods and men was not a difference of being, but a difference of power and station. The gods and men avenged themselves on any who trespassed on their honor and position. Hubris, pride, was a sin in that it was a contempt of station and a contempt of a higher dignitary's power and honor. To the Greeks also, great honors are ascribed in the history of human thought. The earliest school of rational thoughts, it is agreed by all authorities, arose at Miletus in the 6th century BC. We are told. Another scholar assures us that the Greeks invented, among other things, science and philosophy. The first scientists and philosophers lived during the 6th century BC on the Greek coast of Asia Minor and in the Greek cities of southern Italy. Later, during the 5th and 4th centuries, the important center of thought was Athens. It would be an exaggeration to say that before the time of Thales of Miletus, men were incapable of rational thought, but there would be some truth in the statement, since, before his time, it does not appear that anyone asked those precise questions out of which science and philosophy were to develop. The questions were: what is everything made of? How do things come into being, change, and pass away? What permanent substance or substances exist behind appearances? This is an amazing statement in view, for example, of Egyptian and Babylonian architecture, mathematics and astronomy, and the civilization of Mohenjo-Daro. The Minoan culture, which preceded Greek civilization, gives extensive evidence of having reached stages of technological development never approached by the Greeks. Greek science, moreover, involved heavy borrowings from other cultures. Why, then, in view of these well-known facts, are the Greeks given priority in the history of human thought? They were obviously not the equals of their Minoan predecessors. They had a long, ugly history of incessant warfare and persistent tyranny. Whereas the Egyptians, Assyrians, and Babylonians, to cite but 3 peoples, made excellent use of their natural resources and gave abundant evidences of scientific management of soil and water, the Greeks rapidly destroyed their future by gutting their country. The forests were very early ruthlessly stripped, and the marshes drained, and Greece was reduced to the barren and impoverished land which it has remained to this day. The inability of the Greeks to make intelligent use of their natural resources contributed heavily to their decline, and yet they did not lack examples of scientific conservation and the development of natural resources. Why, then, the curious exaltation of Greek science and rationality. Why the ascription of most desirable qualities in modern culture to a Greek heritage?